Audio Unleashed.
Da-da, dun, da-dun, da-da, dun, da-da, dun, da-dun, da-da. I can't remember. Is that from Dragnet? Or from Super Friends?
It sounded more like the old Fleischer Superman cartoon from the 40s.
Know what it was.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we are here to save the day.
Oh, man. Now you're bringing Mighty Mouse vibes out of it. Here I come to save the day. Oh,
so, there's a lot of hot topics in audio this week. Oh my God.
Yeah, and I think you could also probably pick up the fact that you and I are both in a bit of a silly mood. So that's gonna make for an interesting episode. But I don't think our first topic could be considered silly. I think this is this is a little bit of a downer. So let's go ahead and get it out of the way.
Okay.
So this started with a CBS News story that you sent me, and I've been seeing this pop up everywhere. Ben Jordan has been talking about this a lot. I know you don't like him, but I still watch him because he's an anarchist, and you know. But anyway, story from CBS News: Minnesota State Patrol uses long-range acoustic device, that's LRAD, first used by military to disperse Maple Grove protesters. Now, when you put this in the idea board, you also put in a number of, supporting links, including some links to how LRAD works and spec sheets. And I put a video in here about keeping yourself safe if you're sort of subjected to LRAD. And then you did some testing yourself.
I did some measurements on all this stuff. I test earplugs for Wirecutter, both sleep earplugs and music earplugs. And I've done tests where I'm blasting 100 decibels with music earplugs and stuff. And nobody else that I know of is really testing this stuff. And plus, I test noise canceling headphones like crazy.
Yeah,
I do that measurement more than anybody. I don't mean to beat my chest.
Yeah.
It's just that other people don't do it, which is sad. They should do it.
Well, other people do it, but not in the audio domain, more like in the prepper domain. So
great. Okay.
We got a video coming up about that. The Tech Ingredients guys, they did some testing and it aligned with yours, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But let's talk about something more fun, man. What do you want to talk about after that?
Well, it's I don't know if it's fun. It is interesting, and man, was it a rabbit hole. The thing that inspired this was on my YouTube feed. Amir from Audio Science Review came up with a thing. Does rolling op amps make sound better? And this is like a 10-month-old video. I was kind of like, I keep getting on YouTube. I keep getting ads from Fosse Audio about how you can swap out the op amps in their stuff.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I should investigate that. And so, because, I've designed a lot of circuits using op amps. That's pretty much all I do now. And, I'm kind of like, oh, this is interesting. So I looked at a lot of people and Amir's kind of out there on his own, I think, at least in terms of in terms of people I found on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, a lot of our old friends of the pod have weighed in on this topic.
Oh,
and we're gonna discuss the different points of view. Who I don't know. I haven't asked you. We're gonna talk about who we think kind of has it together, and we'll talk a little bit about op amps, which I know something about.
Yeah, you know way more about than I do.
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know just enough to be dangerous, but next, normally when we talk about the absolute sound, we're talking about hostage videos. But today, we're not talking about a hostage video. We're talking actually about a blog post from Tom Martin, who is the head of philosophy department for Absolute Sound? Something like that.
He's the chair of the Department of Philosophy department. I think something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the sign says.
Yeah. So anyway, this blog post is it's titled "How the Absolute Sound Works: Incentives and Ethics." And I actually first heard about this post not from you putting it in the idea board, but from so our friend and my editorial overlord, publishing overlord, Doug Schneider, was on the Hi-Fi 5 this week, and one of them actually brought up, I believe it may have been Danny Kaye who was with us, and I believe he brought it up, this article, and basically what it boils down to is the absolute. I mean, it starts with the absolute sound, saying, hey, the absolute sound's business. Here's how we make money. Here's how the way we make money influences what we cover and how. So you and I have a lot of experience in publishing, and I think we both have a lot of experience in the business of publishing influencing the content of publishing.
Yeah.
So we might have some alternative views here, but
we do.
We'll dig into that when it comes. But anyway, I was kind of surprised to see Absolute Sound publishing this. I'm kind of wondering why they did, but I don't know.
You never know, man. You can't figure out why editors do what they do.
It's a good point. Well, anyway, once we get done with that, we got to keep our patrons happy. What are we going to talk about for them?
Well, we are going to delight them with our discussion of Gramophone Dreams number 105, the Hot Club of New York, and some phono stage, which we're not going to discuss. We're gonna phono stage. Okay, it's a phono stage. But anyway, the Hot Club of New York, which is like this is by Herb Reichert, one of Stereophile's Men About Town in New York, and he talks about going to this thing, which it's sort of like a jazz kissa that we have talked about a lot, but it's kind of like jazz kissa to the next level, like more extreme, I guess you could describe it. And he's talking about listening to, normally jazz kissa, you go to a bar and they have a retro kind of stereo system with like some Klipschorns and stuff, and they play some records. Great, cool. Yeah. You have a drink. This is just like a dude who has a room in a building in New York, and he has a mono system, and he's playing 78s. And at least from the picture that they ran, it looks like, wow, packed house, and apparently everyone's quite passionate about it. So we are going to talk about that and talk about what we think about it, and talk about if we actually might go hear this thing.
Ooh.
Or similar, or try to recreate it ourselves.
Cool. Well, let's talk about LRAD first, bud.
Okay.
I'm curious. This is a little bit of a hot button. So, but you didn't see. This is the first thing you put on the idea board for this episode. So, what in this CBS article stood out to you, and why did you want to talk about it on Audio Unleashed?
Well, honestly, just because I do the measurements on earplugs, and as soon as I see this, as soon as I'm seeing 160 dB and blah 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 blah, I'm kind of like, oh, what? How would earplugs work with that? Instantly, this is what I think about, because I've done it stuff like for Wirecutter, Apple came out with these, the AirPods Pro 2 or whatever, and they, were claiming that they could limit sound to 85 dB for rock concerts. And I'm like, maybe. So I tested it. And, I mean, their claims are sort of more or less kind of true.
Yeah.
But, I got a big PA speaker, which I own PA speakers. Did I mention I'm a musician?
You've mentioned it once or twice. I believe you play the jazz music that all the kids are talking about these days.
That's right. So anyway, so, I do a lot of tests, and nobody else is really doing this that I know of. And, you kind of need an ear cheek simulator or something similar, and a PA speaker, and the willingness to do this. Anyway, so I just kind of thought, like, okay, and I started reading. I'm like, well, okay, what are they playing through these things? How loud is it going to be at different distances? What could you do to block the sound? And et cetera, et cetera. And I'm kind of thinking, like, now, of course, in the U.S., we don't have to worry about this because we have the rule of law and everything. But, in countries that are run by autocrats, where there's secret police forces running wild, and you don't have a constitutional right for legal assembly and petitioning the government and stuff.
Oh boy!
So in other countries, people in maybe North Korea will get something out of this. Although I'm guessing they probably cannot access Audio Unleashed. But
Probably can't. I don't know. We should look at the analytics. But hey,
Screw
before
this.
we go too much deeper, let's talk about
Yeah.
what these things are. Let's talk about
Okay.
LRAD. That's short for long range acoustic device,
Mhm.
and what they are and what they're being used for. So this is as
Yeah.
the headline indicated, originally, a military weapon. And I think a lot of people probably were first exposed to the idea during the whole Somalian pirate thing several years back.
Yeah.
I think they famously used those, but a lot of different names for these. But I think the nomenclature has finally settled down. But for a while there, they were being called like sound lasers or sound
Mhm.
projectors or what have you. But long story short, basically this is a transducer, right? That uses I guess you'd call it beamforming in a sense. I mean, it's
Exactly.
using phase, right,
Mhm.
and a number of transducers to project sound where it's not radiating like a loudspeaker typically would. It's a very focused sound, and I think I'm seeing a lot of these. Like the typical cone is between 5 and 30 degrees, right?
Uh-huh.
So propagation is a little different than a loudspeaker, and they're a lot louder.
Mhm.
As we indicated in the intro, these things can get up to 162 decibels from 1 meter away. And
Mhm.
the interesting thing about that is like 150 decibels from a meter away, that'll just the instant eardrum rupture, like your permanent
Yeah.
hearing loss, right? So
Yeah.
these things are way louder than anything that would be needed to just destroy your hearing forever and cause all sorts of other physiological impacts. But yeah, they are being used a lot more recently for crowd control, and they're being touted as the safe solution. Oh, safe, nonviolent, whatever. Meanwhile, it's
Yeah. So the way as you put this tech ingredients video, which was really instructive,
Mm.
and so the thing is, these things are actually simple to build because if you put like the tech ingredients guy put 4 fairly large drivers, and number one, large drivers beam, right?
Yeah.
So at the wavelength of sound that corresponds to the active diameter of the driver is where it starts to beam,
Mhm.
and and the frequencies of sound they're using with these things are in the 2 to 4 kilohertz range, and so
Right.
that's also the range where big drivers start to beam.
Mm.
It's also the range where human hearing is the most sensitive.
Yeah.
It all just works. It's just a little miracle. And so anyway, you put 2 drivers like this, together, and they form a lobe, right?
Mm.
Between
Mhm.
the two of them, where they reinforce each other at 6 dB louder within that lobe that's directly in front of the two of them. You put 4 of them together and you double up on the lobing, right?
Yeah.
So you basically get a 24 dB boost, I guess it is. And and that's a lobe that's in front of the speaker. So if you move off axis of the speaker, it's actually, you get cancellation and it's going to be quieter, right?
Right.
So, but it's kind of like it's more like a rifle, less like a shotgun, right?
I wonder if you
And
could get eardrums suck.
well, I am the world's greatest expert on eardrum suck. So,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to ponder that. It takes years of testing, and anyway, so these are actually easy to make. I mean, this guy in Tech Ingredients made one pretty cheaply and pretty easily, and
Yeah.
you just go get yourself 4 pretty big drivers, and nowadays we have Class D amps that are small. You don't need a big amp. Get yourself a Jackery or some kind of battery power supply, and you're good to go.
Mhm.
So my concern with this is that bad actors could easily just build these things.
Mm.
You don't need to be if you're the dictator of what's what's a fictional country name? Krakosia.
There you
Krakosia. That
go.
was the name of Tom Hanks's country in the movie where I can't remember what it's called. And so if you're the dictator of Krakosia, you can just build. You can easily have one of your guys go, "Hey, get on Parts Express. As long as Parts Express ships to Krakosia, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And so these are easy to build. And, so I don't, obviously, they're not going to be as, I assume these ones they're building for law enforcement are a lot more heavy duty. And, and one, actually, I was reading up on them, and one like really interesting use that I found that I saw is they use it on boats. And so like if you're the Coast Guard and you have a boat that's approaching that you want to have them stop, and they're not answering their radio calls, then instead of, blowing them out of the water, you can use this thing and just basically yell real loud at them.
Yeah.
And, tell them to stop. So it's actually, non-lethal, means of stopping people. Right.
Yeah.
So in some cases, this has some really legit and potentially even life-saving uses. Right.
Right.
Now, it also has uses of not life-saving. So I actually did this. So I did this test at, I got some normal, like, foam earplugs, right? The kind you just buy to like mow your lawn with and stuff.
Like the type that I used to wear to like your shooting range, right? The sort of orange, Yeah,
exactly. And then I got a pair of standard generic hearing protectors like they sell at Home Depot for, $10 or $15. And that are, headphones basically without any drivers in them, but more clamping force. And they have, instead of, pleather ear pads, they have, more plasticky ear pads that seal more firmly. Anyway, So I got two of those. I got a PA speaker and I put it about, a foot from my ear cheek simulator. And I played a test tone, which we'll put a link into that test tone. It's basically pink noise, but it's very strictly filtered between 2 and 4 kilohertz, right? Because those are the frequencies they're using. And I played it at 110 dB, and believe me, I couldn't take listening to this and this is 110 dB, so this is quite a bit down from what these things are producing.
Right.
I couldn't take this for a split second. I mean, it was just horrible. And so, but I had some drummer headphones that are supposed to be a combination of hearing protection, and I can't remember what brand they are. Direct Sound Serenity 2. And so I use those as my hearing protectors, and it was fine. And I'm right next to the speaker, and it was fine. Okay, so which gave me a clue right there. Anyway, so I did. Let me pull up my chart here. I did the earplugs, I did the hearing protectors, and then I did the combination of the two. And
I found this very shocking, man. How bad the foam earplugs were, that just like really blew me away.
Now the foam, the problem with the foam earplugs is they're really irregular. And they're fine for mowing the lawn and stuff like that, but sometimes you get a tight seal, sometimes you don't. Some of them are better than others. I had a few kicking around, and this is the best of the 3 I got. That happened to fit in my ear cheek simulator. But they only brought the sound down in the 2 to 4K band. They only brought the sound down like 7 dB to 8 dB, which is just not much. Now, once you get above like 4K, it's way down. Right? I'm misreading my own chart. It's actually more like 10 to 20 dB between 2 and 4K. Above 4K, it's just goes off a cliff. You can't hear anything.
Yeah.
But the Home Depot, headphone style hearing protectors between 2 and 4K, you got it's a big drop, like 35 decibels to 40, about 40, and way down there. And the convenient thing about them is the foam earplugs, you put them in, it takes a while for them to, several seconds for them to kind of expand and fill your ears. Whereas the hearing protectors, you just put them on and you can take them off. So if you need to talk to somebody, you can do that. Good thing to think about anytime you're wearing hearing protectors. You can, this is where everybody just buy the headphone style ones. If you're mowing your lawn, they're more effective. And if your neighbor wants to yell something at you, you can just pull one aside real fast listen, and then put it back on. So it
Yep.
just kind of makes the case against foam, except foam is, of course, super ultra cheap.
Right.
And, probably still the best thing for a bar, a rock club or something, where you want to hand out earplugs to people, which is nice. They don't
Keep them
sound
in your
good
pocket.
because, it's good if you have nothing else. There's much better earplugs, like loop earplugs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyway, and the combination of the two actually wasn't that much more effective. It was at real high up in the actually 2 to 4. It was a little more effective at 3K and 4K. Actually, it was about 15 dB more effective at those frequencies.
Yeah.
So it's but then again, you got to put the plugs in, let them expand. If you take them out, you got to put them back in, and you got to mash them up. It's a really onerous process to do it. So the headphones are really the way to go. And I think there's a lesson here for any kind of hearing protection, whether you are, at some kind of a protest or mowing your lawn or in a shop or whatever. This made me really go like, wow, just get the headphone style protectors. Those are way better. And so you turned me on to the video. You want to talk about what they found in Tech Ingredients? Because that was a great video.
Yeah. Now, a lot of what you're talking about, the sort of combination of earplugs and over-ear protectors, there was a lot of similarity there. But the interesting thing for me was how effective the Riot Shield was.
That surprised me.
And they also tried like a face mask, right? This sort of SWAT, shield face masks, and that didn't do a lot. But the Riot Shield just really did an amazing job. And I think I'm guessing here it's just got to really boil down to the sort of dispersion of these things.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, in their testing, it's been a while since I watched it, but I think the Riot Shield actually ended up being better than the ear protection in terms of allowing him to get closer to the device before he hit that.
It was very similar.
Yeah.
It was very similar. It was almost the same. And the way they did it is they played this really loud, and their sound was more like a siren, like wee, 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 like a fire alarm or something.
Right. Similar to what is being used, as crowd control, I think. Right.
Okay. I don't know. I just sort of, I wanted to have a measurement, so I had to use noise to get a good broadband measurement. Anyway.
Yeah.
So it was also annoying. And so they had they set the thing up outside, and they had this guy who was a test subject, stand way, 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 way back and walk towards the LRAD.
Yeah.
And playing at whatever level, sort of really high level they were using, and get to the point and mark the point where he found it too painful to continue. Right.
Yeah.
And the earplugs were moderately effective. The headphone style protectors were very effective.
Except the active ones. I thought that was interesting.
Active ones were terrible. They were worse than the earplugs. I was shocked. It makes me want to buy a pair of those and go like, what is wrong with these things?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something's wrong. And but then like with the Shield and the headphone style protectors, he walked like right up to the the thing, and he's smiling.
Yeah.
And so it was interesting to me though, and honestly, this whole thing is just, look, the country's going to hell in a handbasket, but this was a very interesting audio math problem for me.
Yeah.
So, and it's honestly, it has applications. Like I said, if you're in a, don't use foam unless it's your last resort. Use headphone style protectors if you're in your shop. Obviously, you're probably not going to go to a rock show with your headphone style protectors on. Although maybe you will. I don't know. A lot of people have them for their babies now. You've seen that, right?
I have. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So people are using these for their babies, and maybe it'll just become more, which is a wonderful thing. Those are smart parents.
Yeah.
Really smart parents. And because, eardrums aren't like teeth. You don't get a new set when you turn 6.
Right.
And so, maybe using headphones will become more of a normal thing. And what I didn't test, but should have tested, was like, what if you put a normal set of headphones on? How much
Ooh,
does that block?
yeah.
Like Sony 7506s, or something that people might normally have around their neck.
Yeah.
Um, then if you're in a loud situation, you could just put them on. I mean, I do that all the time. Like when I'm, running a saw or something, or who knows what, or even just up here running some noise canceling tests, I will just grab any old pair of headphones and put them on and just not plug them in or connect them, and because it's going to be 10, 20 dB of isolation. And, for most situations you're going to encounter, shop tools, whatever, that's plenty.
Yeah.
You're mowing your lawn.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good lessons here. And it's too bad I don't have an outlet where I could write about this.
Well, you got a podcast where you could talk about it, man.
Got a podcast. We have our huge audience. And maybe this will get us a bigger audience. Maybe we'll get linked.
Oh, boy.
Then our comment section will explode. We'll have lots of fun with that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I tell you, though, I'm seriously, like you said, country's going to hell in a handbasket. No matter what your intentions are, seriously, no matter what your intentions are, no matter what your viewpoint on any of this is, you may end up in a situation where this is relevant, right? Whether you intend to or not. So, maybe keep some ear protection in your backpack.
Yeah, you might even have a neighbor who decides to build one of these things.
Oh, yeah. My neighbors think I'm crazy enough as it is. So,
I mean, I did that once, right? Because I had a neighbor who was playing his stereo really, really loud, like at 1, 2 in the morning, and would not turn it down.
Yeah.
And I just I got like a outdoor speaker that had a single driver, a real piece of junk.
Yeah.
But it was a large single driver, so it would beam at high frequencies. And I put a tritone with the root of the tritone was at 5K, and the tritone above that ended up being like 7.5 or 8K.
That's
so,
amazing.
tritone is the most dissonant interval in music.
Yeah.
And I played it. It worked. It worked great.
That is amazing.
It was no problem. I just turned it on, and man, they would instantly turn that stereo down.
Was there ever any face-to-face? Did they ever come and talk to you like, hey, my bad? Or
No. Because they know I had been over there a couple times asking them, hey, could you please turn your stereo down? And they'd be like, oh, sure. And then they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Bad people. They needed to be dealt with a homegrown LRAD.
FAFO, man. All right. Well, anyway, I think we've said about enough on this topic. Let's take a break, get some water, and come back and talk about op amps.
Awesome.
All right. We'll be right back, y'all.
Welcome back. This is Audio
Unleashed.
And we are going to talk about the new audio tweak that makes everything better, according to some people, which is op amps. And that's short for operational amplifier. And it's basically a chip amplifier, which, it's got a little preamp circuit in there, but it's all, instead of being discrete transistors, resistors, et cetera, it's all etched, in silicon, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you look at the schematic of these things, it just looks like a preamp schematic, more or less. So people think there's some mystical stuff going on inside there, or some evil stuff going on inside there, but it's just a preamp circuit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they amplified differences in voltage. Is that right? Is that fair to say?
It depends on how you hook it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, there you go.
You can build all sorts of circuits with op amps. There's entire books written about this. I have built a lot of op amp circuits. I've only built a couple of discrete circuits in my life, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because once op amps became readily available, I'm like, the first time I used it, I'm like, oh God, this is so much easier and so much better.
Yeah.
Because my philosophy, I'm just going to get this right out there right now. My philosophy is, because there's a lot of, sort of superstition in the audio world that you have to use discrete components to make a good product, right?
Right.
Which is, discrete transistors and capacitors and resistors and blah, 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 blah. However, my contention is if you're a really good designer, and by that I mean there's only a small number of people in high-end audio that I consider to be really, really, really good designers, right? A lot of them are not. They just follow old rules and they mess around.
Yeah.
And but if you're a really good designer, you can probably beat the op amp. But otherwise, the people who engineer the op amps are really good engineers by and large.
Yeah.
And so my thought's always like, you know what? Texas Instruments has somebody better than me at this. So why don't I exploit that?
Well, let me ask you a follow-up question to that.
Mm-hmm.
You say if you're a really good designer, you could probably beat the op amp, right? And I'm guessing when you say you could probably beat the op amp, you're talking in measurable terms, noise distortion, things like that.
Maybe in sound quality, I don't know. I mean,
but if like looking at the specs of some of these op amps that Amir is talking about and things like that, it's like, okay, say you could improve on those specifications. Would it be audible? Like, are we talking about the difference between, negative 120 dB and negative 124 dB? I mean, it's like, okay, you've improved your specification. Great. The first one was so good you couldn't hear it anyway. What's the point?
Well, so we're getting into what pulled me into this, which is this video from Amir at Audio Science Review called "Does Rolling Op Amps Make Sound Better?" And the thing is, there's a lot of amps coming out, these cheap little amps from Duke and Topping and Fosse and people like that, right? Mm-hmm. Where you can swap out the op amps, because op amps, I mean, some of them nowadays are more typically soldered in, but you can also buy them with pins to where they fit into sockets. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And that way I don't have to worry about overheating I can, solder the socket in and not worry about it getting too hot and burning up the op amp. So anyway, so you can just drop these op amps in. It's not too difficult. And now there's a bunch of companies like Burson and who were the other ones? I can't remember. There's 3 or 4 companies now that are making aftermarket op amps, and these are much bigger than a standard chip op amp.
Right.
And a lot of them have like anodized heat sinks on them that look really cool. I'm not entirely sure why you need a heat sink on an op amp, other than to make it look cool.
Because it looks really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen anybody say you got to worry about your op amps getting hot.
Well, not in this application for sure.
Not in this application. I mean, but I've never seen like if you look at transistors and things like that, and some power supply components, voltage regulators, things like that. They all have a thing to where you can attach a heat sink, and you are expected to attach a heat sink, right?
Right.
Op amps, I've never seen that before. But anyway, certainly not in audio, maybe in RF applications, I don't know. But so an op amp is just a little amp circuit that is on a chip. And so Amir measured some of these things, and he found that the differences that he got between different op amps were on the order of the differences he would typically measure with these relatively cheap little amps. The differences that he would measure between channels, right? Between like left and right channels. There's as much of a difference typically with that as there is between the different op amps. And he's talking about, as you're saying, it's a little weird because, he's the SINAG guy, signal to noise and distortion. And he rates everything by like the signal to noise and distortion. And, something with minus 121 is better than something with a minus 120. But in this video, he's talking about how this stuff's not audible anyway.
Right.
Which he's right. I mean, I guess he's got to rank them by something.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, and we keep saying that this, look, you get into minus 100 and things like that. It's not audible. And it doesn't matter. And so that's sort of his point, is like, there's all these little teeny tiny differences he's measuring, and none of them matter.
Yeah.
However, he is by far the outlier. And here we go. Down the rabbit hole.
Down the rabbit hole. So just for a point of comparison, like Amir's headline is, does op amp rolling swapping work? Right. The first one was, does rolling op amps make amps sound better? It's a question. Danny Ritchie of GR Research, his headline is, hell yeah, rolling op amps make your amps sound better. Hear it for yourself. And he's got a couple of files here where apparently he recorded the differences so you could do the test for yourself and explore it. And of course.
Hey, Dennis, how did he record those differences? Did he work with anybody that we've ever talked about on this podcast before?
Yes, he did.
So I'm sure that, look, they know what they're doing. So they use they basically hooked up a low resistor or something to the amp.
No.
There may be a little RF filter because some of these amps need that. And then they recorded that, so you don't have anything. You're not hearing anything other than the amp. Except they didn't do that, did they? I'm sensing from your tone they didn't do that.
They did not do that. What's more, they didn't even level match. Oh man, you get down to the comment section and people are like bringing their receipts and going, hey, it's like there's a difference in the level of these. I think it was something like a 2 dB difference in the levels, and
I heard a channel imbalance in one of them too. Because they're recording, they're doing it the wrong way. They're using Earthworks measurement mics. Okay, well that's something. Those are omnidirectional, by the way, and so they're picking up all the room sound of the speakers and everything. So it's like a power response to the speaker, sort of, except they put them close to the speaker. So it's just like there's so many variables they're introducing in this that are just wrong. And look, Danny knows better than this. Come on, he knows better than this. I can do this, and you don't even need like some of these amps are kind of need a reactive load, i.e., with capacitance and inductance. They're looking for a reactive load because some of them don't have a filter on the end. And which is fine because your speaker is a reactive load. But when you're trying to pull a line level thing off of them, you can just use a standard resistor divider, right, to get the voltage down. Maybe drop the voltage by a factor of 10. Okay, that's 2 resistors. Danny can do the math on that easily in his sleep, in his head. And I got I measure mine with when I do my measurements of these amps, I use a little filter design that I got from the Texas Instruments website, and it cost me. It's just a couple of what is it? I think it's just a couple of capacitors and resistors. It works great. I mean, it works better than the fancy filter I bought for like $200. And this thing cost me, I don't know, $10-15 to build. And it works beautifully. And it's like you could use that and then drop the voltage down, and there you go. Record it, and then you have the sound of the amplifier without the sound of the speakers, without the sound of the room, without the sound of the microphone, without the sound of anything else you screwed up.
And you
get perfect level matching. So
by the way, Danny got called out in the comments for the lack of level matching, and his response was interesting about it. I mean, he was
what did he say? I didn't read the comments.
Somebody was talking about it, and his response was, all settings were the same, and the low pass filter was not used in any of them. What you are seeing and hearing is exactly how the op amps changed the response. The real differences were not in volume, but in detail, decay structure, harmonics, clarity, etc. Those areas were very clear, even in the sound clips. Also, what the sound clips don't catch is the difference in soundstage size, layering, and placement. In those areas, the differences were quite dramatic. So it's just like the guy pointed out there's like 2 dB difference in levels, and then he was like, well, that's not, nope, that's not important. That's not a thing. It's like, come on, man.
Which could come from, these op amps will have a little bit different gain and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Fine. Although, given that I'm going to dispel another myth here that I think is a myth. I've seen videos where they talk about, it depends on the way that, on the amplifier that the op amp is used in, the amplifier or DAC or whatever component, right? And It depends on the way it's implemented and all the other components and blah, 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 blah. However, I can't speak for every designer, but to me, op amps are kind of a generic thing.
Yeah.
And you just drop them in. And, obviously all these have the same pin out. And even if they didn't, you're still working with the same stuff that comes in and out of them, right?
Yeah.
And so like, when you look at circuit designs using op amps, it's just a little triangle symbol for the amplifier, right?
Mhm.
And it's generic, right? And so it's like mine, it's just like any other audio circuit. I know what I have an input resistor on there, right? I have a feedback resistor. I mean, if I wanted to make a fuzz box, I could put 2 diodes in the feedback loop or whatever. But, there's things I can do that would be different. But by and large, it's just resistors.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea of the op amp is the amp's already built for you. All you do is drop in a couple of resistors in a power supply and you got an amp.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I may be going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think a lot of these sorts of disagreements and misunderstandings, this is just my personal opinion, come from really bad analogies, right? And I think we are so used to living in a world where the ingredients matter. I'll give you an exact example.
Mm-hmm.
There was one. You remember when we had Cedia in San Diego, and there was one dinner that you and I went to where they had like buttermilk biscuits as an appetizer, and they were charging like $16 for one buttermilk biscuit that I would just make for breakfast and take for granted.
Yeah,
and like I'm sorry, I've never had a good buttermilk biscuit west of the Great Divide. And these are really good, but people were losing their minds over this $16 buttermilk biscuit that he was treating as like a bougie appetizer, right? And I asked the chef, I'm like, what's the secret? And he was like, oh, my Mima sends me white lily flour from, out east. And I'm like, oh, that absolutely makes sense to me. Because using different brands of flour, if you're a baker or a cook, you would, I guess maybe if you're not a baker or cook, it would just see you as being like flour's flour. No, flour is not flour. You want to make a good buttermilk biscuit, you use white lily flour. I'm sorry. That's just, if you're not, you're doing it wrong. And I think in a lot of cases, we get used to those modes of thinking where there are these product categories, but buying a very specific brand can have very different effects. It's not generic, but in the domain of electronics, I mean, when you're talking about these functions, and it's not always equivalent, but in a case of like the op amps, it's equivalent, and I just don't think,
or pretty close,
or close enough that it doesn't matter. And I think people are getting into the white lily flour mode of thinking, like, oh, if you want a good buttermilk biscuit, you got to have white lily flour, and if you've got a good op amp, you got to be using this brand if you want to do this function and this brand, and it's like, well, no, and I think the end of Amir's video really sort of demonstrates to me the differences in worldviews with regard to this, because I'm sorry, but as much as I agree with Amir here, and as much as I think both of Amir's videos are great and right on the money, I think the end of his second one is just adorably naive. Just adorably naive, because
what did he say? I can't remember. I watched so many of these videos.
He gets to the end of the testing, and a lot of people criticized his methodology in the first video, right? And he was like, okay, criticize my methodology. Let's do it your way. And here's the results. Oh, you think I did this wrong? Oh, let's do it your way. Okay, here are the results. He gets through the end of all of this testing, and he says, like, okay, hopefully we don't have to argue about this anymore. I mean, it's just like, this is all very conclusive. The engineering tells us there's no difference.
Yeah.
The science tells us there's no difference. And the measurements tell us there's no difference. So there's just nothing else to talk about. And I'm like, oh, buddy, you're adorable to think that objective reality is going to change the mind of Danny Ritchie, or Lachlan or any of these people. And I think it's just because they're using a white lily flower model of audio reproduction, where maybe that's valid in transducers, but in electronics?
No. It bothers me a lot though, because like if you look at like Lachlan from Passion for Sound, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he doesn't know how this stuff works.
No.
He's no idea. It's just a black box. It's a magic black box, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Danny Ritchie knows how this stuff works, which disappoints me.
He knows how speakers work. I'm not sure he knows how electronics work.
I don't know, but this is not hard, and this is stuff I knew 40 years ago.
Yeah.
With the Forrest Mims book on circuit design from Radio Shack.
Hell yeah, Radio Shack.
Which you could still search for it, and it's still good.
Nice.
It's where I learned how to design audio circuits, low-level audio circuits.
Yeah.
And Flunky has like one high-level audio circuit in there too. But anyway, this is a thing though. And the more I looked at it, and all these op-amp videos started popping up, and I just kept looking at more and more and more. And it was more like these guys just didn't really know what they were talking about. They didn't know how to do a valid comparison. I mean, what I would do if let's say I was still writing for, what was that thing we wrote for? Home Theater Review?
Home Theater Review, yeah.
Okay. Let's say I was still doing that. I would call Jerry Del Cogliano up. Well, no, I would email him.
Yeah.
And unless I had 2 hours. And and I would say, hey, I'm going to buy a couple of these Fosse amps because they're like $100 or something,
Yeah.
And I'll buy a few of these op amps and I'll double blind them with my ABX box, and we'll see. And as we find out from Amir's video, there are going to be little differences in these. These are cheap products, right? It is possible that with an ABX between two of these things, you could hear a difference. But let's not forget, there's virtually zero. There's like just a little bit above zero in terms of the number of people that have passed ABX tests on amplifiers, right? So, it's very unlikely to begin with. And then you look at this and it's like, okay, this is just one little part of the amplifier. It seems very unlikely that in a level match comparison, you would hear a difference. And then you get into the old thing that we talk about that a lot of people don't, which is, okay, you hear a difference. How much does it matter?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, some little, the things, Amir's measuring in these things. It's like, okay, there's a decibel. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's decibel. There's differences of a decibel that you can hear. If you have a 1 decibel boost between 2 and 4K for your LRAD, you can hear that easily. But if you have a little high Q boost of 1 dB, you can't hear it.
Yeah. But if your identity is wrapped up in being a better listener than other people, right? If you consider listening a skill that has to be taught, and some people can do it and some people can't, then all of a sudden those small differences start to be the source of your narcissism,
Well, but you can do that because you were on Hi-Fi 5. I have not been invited on there yet, so I have not learned from them how to listen.
Did you see Doug's appearance on Hi-Fi 5?
Yeah.
He was,
great.
I thought Doug did great, man. Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm intrigued by this in a way in that, look, this is cheap. Unlike so much in audio, this stuff is really cheap and it works pretty good. I've measured a bunch of these amps, and by and large, these amps are not bad.
Yeah.
And, but for look, I mean, they have, some of them have their flaws, but, I think that when I started measuring them 10 or 15 years ago, a lot of them were pretty dicey. But nowadays, they're pretty good. They tend to make their numbers. And, this is something for people to play with. It doesn't cost a lot. These op amps cost a lot, in a lot of cases, as much as the amplifier or close to it.
Right.
You might pay $70 or $80 for a couple of op amps. And, maybe that's same for the amplifier. And But it's cheap fun. If you want to mess with it, you can. I can tell you though, you'll get better results by getting a more powerful power supply for your amp.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That would make a difference because a lot of these things will take like 24 to 48 volts, but they come with a 24-volt supply.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so by going with a 48-volt supply, and if you want to really go nuts, you can get a linear supply, not a switching supply.
Mm-hmm.
And mess around with that. But it's going to cost you a few $100 as opposed to, open up Stereophile and okay, you're out $10,000 right off the bat.
Oh, there you go, man. There you go. By the way, I just bought a PDF of the Force Mems book.
Oh, good. It's a good book. I literally learned 60% of my circuit design chops come from that. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. I've seen people say he made a couple errors here and there, but by and large, it's good.
Yeah.
And and it's a little tiny pamphlet,
Yeah.
But that's what allowed me to develop the Butter Sound encoder.
Oh, nice. Very nice. What was the name of it? Bride of Frank that you used that on?
Yeah, it was the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I definitely went through a few pairs of speakers while I was learning that, one of which was good. And then I started using crap speakers because I would, DC would come out and
there goes a voice coil.
Yep.
Wow. Right.
But I learned, it's kind of like when you get a car, learn to drive with a crappy car.
That's just a very good point. Learn to work on a very crappy car too. So
yeah.
Of course, you can't work on modern cars. What am I talking about? We grew up in an era where you could work on your own car. That's not a thing anymore, man.
Well, my car has nothing to work on, so.
Well, that's a good point. You basically drive a golf cart.
I drive a fast golf cart. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've strayed off topic enough to let us both know that we've probably exhausted this one. So, take a break, get another drink of water, and come back and talk about what are we talking about? Oh, how the absolute sound works. And this time it's not a hostage video.
I can't wait to find out.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back, y'all. Welcome back, everybody. This is Audio Unleashed. Nice. One of these days, you're going to venture into grape ape territory, and that's just going to break me, man. It's just... Am I dating myself with that reference? Do the kids these days even remember grape ape?
I only dimly remember what grape ape. I remember that grape ape existed, and that's all I remember.
Beakley. Yeah, he always sat on top of the van because he was too big to get in the van. Man, that was awesome. So anyway,
he was purple, right?
He was, yeah. So after that little digression, let's jump back into audio. Let's talk about the absolute sound, man, because as I said in the intro, Tom Martin, the head of philosophy or
Director
whatever.
of philosophy department director, something.
Okay, sure. For the absolute sound has this new blog post dated. Well, it's not new. It's a week old at this point. It'll be 2 weeks old by the time most people hear this. So, how the absolute sound works, incentives and ethics. And I originally heard about this, like I said, when our friend Doug Schneider was on the Hi-Fi 5 last week. They brought this up, but it is an interesting post. I wonder if something prompted this, or if it was just like, what the heck are we going to write about this week? Or
I got to think that, and it might, maybe not, but I got to think. Normally, I mean, when I've done stuff like this, kind of never as long and in depth as this, but I've done much briefer things, and it was usually, created just to shut somebody up.
Yeah.
I'd be getting, too much, unfair criticism from people who don't know how my business runs or anything like that. And
Right.
I want to just straighten them out a little bit. I still do that, in like the comment section at Wirecutter, but nothing like this.
Yeah. So he starts off by saying readers and viewers are, to a degree, interested in how
Mhm.
reviews happen, why certain equipment gets reviewed, and how our reviewers and the publications themselves are compensated. The
Mhm.
basic issue here is trust or trustworthiness. And I don't know why, but I'm getting shades of Colbert's truthiness from that.
Yeah.
Then he goes, let's take a look at how the absolute sound works. So you have the appropriate backgrounds.
Uh-huh.
And he starts off by saying, look, we're a business. We've got 25 people. We got to keep fed. 10 of those people work for us full time. The rest are contracted in, layouts, printing, software, accounting, or they're freelancers. And, the point he's making is like, look, it costs money to make a publication. So the publication's got to make money. How does a publication make money? Well, it ain't through subscriptions, because that's a money losing proposition, because we couldn't charge enough for a subscription to actually pay for it. So we make money with advertising. And here's how that influences us. And I guess I'm kind of surprised that he jumped straight to the point in that respect. Were you?
No.
Okay.
Because, I think, as you were saying, something must have inspired this.
Hmm.
So I got to tell you, like, one thing I really loved there's a lot I liked about this article, I got to say.
Yeah.
And it's very upfront and very, open and transparent as far as I can tell.
Hmm.
So he's talking about, like, how they select products to review. And I have a couple nits to pick with this, but he says, there's 5,000 high-end products introduced a year, something like that, and
Mm-hmm.
they have space to review about 250 a year. And so, an overlooked but important part of that selection process is pure contact or familiarity, if you prefer.
Yeah.
He talks about manufacturers that either are in foreign countries that they don't have much knowledge of, or manufacturers who are small and don't want reviews or whatever, and
Yeah.
or manufacturers who don't go to shows or don't have PR contacts. And he's saying, like, look, the people that have PR and that show up at shows and that have a real presence in the industry are the ones who are likely to get reviewed. And he's dead right about that. I mean, there's
Yeah.
just no question about it. Some people are just constantly at you with stuff to review, and they're
Yeah.
going to get reviewed more than someone who never contacts you,
Mhm.
and or someone who maybe you follow them a little bit, but you're not up with all their latest stuff because they didn't show up at the last 2 or 3 shows you were at, so you
Right.
forget about them.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's how, like, B&K Components kind of fell off the map, because they were real big for a while in the 90s, and they were doing a lot of, really nice amps and preamps and preamp processors and stuff like that. And they quit going to trade shows, and man, they just fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And, it's so, marketing works, and it works on reviewers too. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Of course.
Um, and then they have another part that says, how does advertising affect what product gets reviewed? This is where I kind of had some nits to pick a little bit,
Okay.
because, he says, we try to separate ad sales and at least he doesn't say it's a wall between sales and editorial, because a lot of people will say that, which is no.
The
They are
wall of
different
separation
different ways.
between church and state. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, there are publications that do have that. I work for one.
Hmm.
But most of these, enthusiast publications don't work like
Yeah.
that. I've never worked for one that really worked like that. And I've worked for a bunch. So, um, if someone's advertising with you, they are going to get more attention. And partly because, as he's saying before, you have a relationship with that company, right?
Sure.
So if they're advertising with you, they probably know you, and they can say, "Hey, ad salesperson, could I have your editor's email?
Hmm.
Because I want to pitch them something," right? And
Yeah.
the ad salesperson will probably give it to him. Whereas a lot of times trying to find an editor's email is pretty difficult to do.
Yeah.
And it's just your pitches are going to land. And I got to say, I've consulted with a lot of manufacturers in high-end audio, right? And low-end audio, all sorts of audio. So,
not a lot of low-end audio these days.
There's sound bars and Bluetooth speakers and stuff.
Yeah.
But, in high-end audio, definitely the manufacturers, at least, are under the impression that they are much more likely to get a review if they advertise.
Yeah.
And that's just an expected expense. And so it's like, you know what? We got a new amplifier that's coming out in 2 months or whatever, and we got to get some reviews going. And, maybe they haven't advertised for a while, and maybe they'll be like, okay, we're going to advertise this amplifier or whatever in Absolute Sound, let's say. And they'll do it, and they will, and they might say, hey, we want to talk to your editor and see if we can get a review going. And the ad sales person, as we both know, there are ad sales people who at some publications can greenlight reviews.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's the case with Absolute Sound, nor do I suspect it's the case. I'm pretty sure it's not. Matter of fact, look, it's not. And so I do know a little bit about what goes on there.
Yeah.
But the ad salesperson may just say, oh, hey, Joe Blow, Ted Denny just emailed me because he's got a new revolutionary fuse. Just step up. It's $1,000 per fuse instead of just 500. And, he wants to get a review. Yeah. And they'll just forward the email, and whoever the editor is, okay, well, Ted Denny, whatever, good relationship with the magazine, and that actually does count. People who are jerks to your ad sales staff, jerks. People who are jerks. There are some cases where you can't cut them off,
right?
For a wide variety of reasons, because they're too important in the industry, or. There was a guy when we were doing home entertainment who was pretty jerky and pretty demanding, and he was an advertiser, but more to the point, he did what did he do? He did installations, right? And I think he basically would design the interiors, and dealers would put these things in, or maybe he was a dealer. I can't remember, but anyway, man, the stuff he gave us was gorgeous.
Yeah,
and he gave us the photography. We didn't have to hire a photographer. It's like,
nice.
Here it is. And if we wanted to interview him about the thing, he'd be like, okay, let's go now. And if we wanted to talk to his clients, he'd be like, most of the time he'd be like, yeah, I'll get him to do it. And they do it.
Wow.
And it was just like, how could we turn that down?
Yeah.
As demanding as he was, it's like, God, he just gives us great stuff.
Yeah.
So, if you have someone in the industry, like let's say a Dan D'Agostino, right, where what he does matters, right? He can be somewhat demanding about a review. And he can expect to get reviewed in TAS and in Stereophile and places like that.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm going to say, look, I just always think that, I've seen so many people beat their chest about how independent they are. And I'm reminded, this is going to be a pretty erudite comment for you. I'm literate and erudite. I am reminded of the quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. The louder he proclaimed his virtue, the faster we counted the spoons.
Oh, nice.
And I told that to my mother, and she was like, why would anybody want to count spoons? Because, I think back in the day, Emerson was thinking of like silver, spoons and stuff. And Mom was thinking of spoons she got at IKEA.
So right. Whatever. Yeah. I love your mom so much, man.
Yeah.
Just no nonsense. Love it. I got to say, one of the things that I really liked the most in this, there are some things here when I'm just like, I don't know, but there's some stuff that I really like, and one of the things that he talks about that really resonated with me was just logistical issues, like right now, my wife is not happy with me because there was. I'm not. I know you like to name names. I'm not going to name names because whatever. But there was a company that I had last year made several requests for review gear from, and I just never heard back from them. And so a few months would go by, and I would be like, "Oh, hey, what about this one? You know?" And oh yeah, we'll get back to you. And there's nothing. And then the last week, every product that I requested for review from this distributor showed up on the same day. And it's taking up like a quarter of my den, you know?
Wow.
And it's just like, and the thing is, I know the pre person's going to be like, okay, when's the review coming? And it's like, dog, you just dumped like 5 months worth of review gear on me, and I got other stuff coming in. And, you know, the issue of storage, the issue of timing, just the anxiety of, there's always this balance of, I want to make sure I've got a few products lined up, but I don't want to have 6 products sitting here. It's feast or famine. I want to make sure I'm not scrambling to have my review for Soundstage Access ready to go when I'm ready to go. But also I don't want things piling up and my wife getting mad at me and stacking boxes on top of it. So it's just something that people don't think about, I think. And he talks a little bit about that. Not enough, in my opinion, but it makes the issue of quick turnarounds difficult, because a lot of these people will send you a piece of gear and they're like, they want it back in 60 days. And that's fine. But if you're sending me 4 months worth of review gear, what do I do, man? You know?
Well, they don't always think it through, and sometimes they just get it and they just want to ship it so they don't forget.
Right.
But
and then the bigger problem is if they don't want it back. Oh, for heaven's sake. People think we get into this because it's like we want free gear. Good Lord, man. I spend most of my life trying to get them to take review gear back. It's just like, I can't use. How many amplifiers does one person need? Just, maybe 3. I don't know. I certainly don't need as many as I have.
So there's one part of this that I thought was complete BS, though. I'm sure you realize which it is. It's our review goals are designed as it happens. As it happens. It's a strange phrase to use here. To limit bias. And the core of it, you can skip that whole first big long paragraph. It's just the old absolute sound, blah, blah. We references the sound of real instruments and voices in a real space, which you can't really remember all that well.
No.
And blah, blah. And once the focus of the review is on objectively describing, not on judging, the task is less affected by the reviewer's inevitable biases. Baloney. Once the focus of the review is on blind testing or measurements, the task is not affected by the reviewer's inevitable, or less affected by the reviewer's inevitable bias. The reviewer still writes the review up, right? So it's still, even if even my reviews in Wirecutter, where I blind test so much. I don't measure. I measure some stuff. I blind test a lot of stuff. And I still have bias in there. But, somebody can come in with a speaker that's $50 and I can blind test it against one that's $500 and it could conceivably beat it. But I don't worry about my bias because it's under a black fabric and it's level matched and I have a switcher that lets me not know what I'm switching to.
Right.
So I have a couple of them. So there's some things that I appreciate here. The reviewer, when the reviewer is done properly, isn't reviewing it for themselves, but for the listeners it might serve. Well, that's great. And I think, honestly, I really do think most of the storied publications of high-end audio kind of feel that way.
Yeah.
I think there's probably some blowhard reviewers who maybe, some YouTube guys or something who really see themselves as, the masters of audio aesthetics and, like their opinion really matters.
Yeah.
But I can think of one.
Hmm.
And anyway, it's not you,
Yeah.
nor is it me. But so that part, I'm just like, oh, come on, guys, your testing method sucks. It's not valid at all. It's not even useful. It's just, like I said, in an email chain or a Facebook chat chain with you and Aaron a while back, I said, the whole like subjective review thing is really pretty scammy because these manufacturers can make a pitch that rubs all these reviewers the right way. Like if you tell them, "Oh, we didn't design this with measurements. We just designed it. We did extensive listening tests." And you tell that to some of these reviewers, and they're going to be like, "Oh, God, this must be good." And if you have a good backstory or use some exotic something or another in there,
Yeah.
these guys will just think it's great and blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, it's my new reference, or it's a new standard and blah, blah, whatever. And with absolutely no credible, attempt to get rid of your bias, which is either measurements or blind testing or both.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of the two. Or
Absolutely.
one of the two.
Yeah.
So
I think we've reached the end here, man. Is there anything else you wanted to dig into this one, or we ready to do some credits?
No, but I will point out that they did have a highfalutin philosophical quote at the end of this.
Of course they did. It's the absolute sound, man. I'm surprised they didn't have some, essay about stoicism to wrap it up, man.
So we anthropomorphize institutions and frequently default to moralized, intention-based narratives that posit villains rather than incentives and structural constraints.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure.
How could I disagree with that?
I think I would probably have to understand what the heck it means before I could decide if I agree with it or not.
Exactly. I understand Bad Bunny's lyrics better than I understand that, and I don't speak Spanish. I mean, come on, man.
Anyway, do you want to say it or do you want me to say it, man?
You say it.
This is a Butterburger production. That means it's us, man. Me and you.
We're doing drama there. I like that.
Yeah, we're doing all of this. So it's my turn to edit and mix and master and all that good stuff. I was hoping to have some new music working in it, but I don't think
I'll
I have it
for you.
Okay,
no, I'll
cool.
do something for you.
We'll have a Brent Butterworth tune instead of a Butterburger house band. Soon we'll have something, the two of us.
Well, plus an old Butterburger house band.
Very cool.
I'm just going to do one tune.
Very cool. All right.
But I've been feeling banjo-y, so.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear that, man. So banjo-y.
Yeah, I don't have a steel string, banjo.
Right. Yeah.
I have an Alabama style banjo.
My dad does, but he can't play it.
So. Okay. I mean, actually, banjo ukuleles were the biggest in England.
Oh. Any other credits? Any other shout outs you want to do? Anybody we need to thank or anything like that?
Nope.
All right.
Nope. Thanks to the Absolute Sound for giving us something that we didn't make fun of.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Nice for a change. Yeah.
And it's kind of a brave article. It's nice that they laid everything out there. And honestly, so much of what they laid out there is applicable to a lot of publications.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. So, all right. Well, everybody, as always, thank you for joining us. Go leave us a review somewhere. Sometimes we're delinquent in doing this sort of normal content creator stuff. Yeah. So go review us on iTunes or, follow us on, I don't know, something. I'm really bad at this. I'm sorry, but share. Tell your grandma about us. She'll like us. We're good boys.
Like and subscribe.
That's the one I was trying to think of. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everybody, we'll see you in a couple of weeks, but patrons, stick around. We got one more for you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. If you liked what you heard and wish there'd been a little bit more of it, we got some good news for you.
Indeed, we do. If you check out patreon.com/Audio Unleashed, all one word, you can get new episodes a little earlier than everybody else.
And sometimes it's like a day or two early. Sometimes it's nearly a week. We never really know until we start editing.
But the big plus is that you get extended cuts of every episode. And usually that's going to mean a whole extra segment that's about maybe a geekier topic or something that's a little more personal to us or something that's just going to really appeal to the hardcore Audio Unleashed listener.
Yeah, what it boils down to is if you're somebody who would support Audio Unleashed on Patreon, we're going to make sure the bonuses to every episode are really aimed straight at your interests.
Yeah, and so if you want to hear these segments, you can subscribe to our Patreon for $3 a month, which is less than I spend every single day on my cup of coffee when I go to Starbucks to write my boring articles.
Yeah. One more time with that URL, that's patreon.com/Audio Unleashed.
Or Audio
Unleashed. Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.